Greetings everyone, it is me, Gigalem, and this is actually Gigalem from the future. We are going to be covering a bit of a playthrough. And by a bit of a playthrough, I mean something I was able to fit into one part. We're going to be playing the original Metroid, and the playthrough you're about to see is going to be very condensed. Now, I initially intended to try to get B-roll footage for this particular game, but soon other future me will be talking about this particular version of the game and my thoughts on why I don't like the original Metroid nowadays. I'll just say this right now, if you have any intention of playing the original Metroid, do it only if you're curious, but I will just say this. Just play Zero Mission. It does everything, well, almost everything the original does better. And yeah, simply put, this particular version of the game, the original, it really peeved me. It really annoyed me to no end, and well, I'll talk about it once the footage plays. Another thing. This could be the emulator or another thing to note, but there was some serious slowdown in this version of Metroid. So I'm just gonna say this right now, play it on the NSO, or if you still have your cartridge lying around and it's in good enough condition, just play it off that, or you can just emulate. No one's gonna fault you there. This game's everywhere. Anyway, I shall now pass it over to post-commentary. See you there. And so here we are with the original Metroid. And this particular video was one heck of a thing to edit together. I don't know what happened to my words there, but believe me when I say this, this was not fun putting together and such. So I hope you hope you didn't mind the wait, because I want to talk about what was the problematic part about the recording process to make mention or cover the original Metroid in a way where I only needed to talk about enough about it and didn't need to do it again. So here's the deal. Initially, I just wanted to record some B-roll footage, but without testing the game beforehand, well, I just got so frustrated so easily that I even, had so many failed takes with it that I just quit. I just decided not to use those and such. It's why I never got to make this video happen last year. I was trying to get this edited all month. If you want to know how much of a process this was to record, I recorded this footage back in, I want to say late January. One day I decided, if I'm going to get this bonus video done, I'm going to have to sit down and play through the original Metroid from start to finish, even if I have to use restore points. And so the initial idea was to record the GBA version of it, since it was on Zero Mission. Zero Mission's, the version on GBA got super laggy. There was slowdown everywhere. And I think there might be some glitches that are a bit more persistent in that version due to the size of the screen. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case, but it was something I ran into way more than I did this version of the game. So yeah, I basically said, you know what? I might as well just do this on Nintendo Switch Online. It's the easiest way of covering this game. It's the easiest way for anyone to play this game. But I'm going to tell you this right now, you don't need to play original Metroid. It was this game that started the series, but I will always say, just play Zero Mission. I don't care how you play it, just proceed at your own risk, but just find a way to play it, because and I hope you have a good time with it, because Zero Mission is the way to experience the first Metroid adventure and such. So, yeah. This entire playthrough, I tried my best to get it under an hour. I cut out a lot of the backtracking. I even had to cut around so many, like, uses of, like, restore points and such. But if it, in case it looks so awkwardly cut, that's because it is. It is awkwardly cut because of how I had to edit around everything. This is going to be the longest video in the series simply because of it. It's an hour and a half long, so I hope you're ready for a movie, and I hope you're ready to hear me ramble. I want to like this version of the game, but I just, after this and the next bonus video, whenever I get to working on that, I'm just not in any sort of mood to play original Metroid anytime soon. So, let's start with one thing, the controls. It's one of those cases where, because Nintendo made it, it controls better than most NES games, unless you're Mega Man, but it's also the case of there's some very antiquated parts about it that just make this very archaic and such. And by that I mean Samus can only aim in front of her and above her. You cannot aim downwards in this version of the game, because whenever you aim downward or try to aim downwards, you just curl up into a morph ball. And you basically do nothing at the beginning of the game in case you try to aim downwards without the morph ball. Let's get to another thing about this game, and you're going to see it when we get into the later parts about it. Samus's health. Even though the password is like I want to say 144 or 128-bit integer with it, one byte that is never, like, editable is the health. Samus will always start with 30 HP. If you've collected any energy tanks before dying, you'll still have those energy tanks. They'll be empty. Oh yeah, that is something that's funny to do with certain enemies. You take away their terrain, they just spin in circles in midair. Maybe that's where the gravity suit tech came from. But yeah, this game nowadays is very antiquated. Like, it's antiquated, it's dated, it's more or less, it's where the series got its beginnings, but it's shown its age at this point. It's really old, and again, you only play it just to see how the series started. But I cannot recommend anyone go back to this game unless they've played any of the others, or unless they're extremely curious. Heck, I'm not even sure if I'm using the word antiquated correctly. I might have to put a description on the screen. Another thing is, with Samus's upgrades, like, there's a lot of things that were established early on, but it sure took some time to get it done right. Samus's upgrades, are pretty good for the most part, but they're not exactly the best. You'll know what I mean when we get them, but you can definitely tell that the more the series went on, the better they got. But there is one that did start off as something that's really great to use. But like, another thing that I also have an issue with in terms of this game, you will see it, I will edit around it. There will be cases where the game will just stop giving you health or missile drops altogether, because it wants to always act like you're always defeating the enemy on the wrong frame, and that's my issue with this game having health and missile pickups, like, be frame-based. Because there could be a case where no matter what frame you're on, you're always missing those frames. Like, I don't know what is happening. The issue is that you can't really tell what frames you're hitting or anything. You can, like, you just have to guess. And good luck trying to get out of get out of that acid if you fall in there, because it's like quicksand in acid form. Like, you get stuck in there like I do, and it's so hard to get a high jump out of it. And believe me, that is an issue I also have with other Metroid games before you get the gravity suit. Looking at you, Meridia and Super Metroid. Yeah, at this point in time, I have played through Super Metroid fully. I have played through Metroid Fusion again, and I actually really enjoyed my time with Fusion that time. I'm also just only missing, like, one game to play through in the 2D Metroids, and I don't exactly want to play Metroid Other M for, at least not for that time being, simply because of story reasons. But I'm not here to talk about Other M and such. Believe me, I'm pretty sure everyone has basically ranted about what Other M did wrong, even if the gameplay is, you know, fine. I'm here to talk about this game and how it's really dated. It's like it's just, you can see it. But, yeah, we just got ourselves Morph Ball bombs, and I am basically jumping past the point where I need to go to basically get another item pickup, because I'm basically cutting out a lot of backtracking and such. So, the one thing to make note of when I was recording this playthrough without the edits was a grand total of 3 hours. And my first playthrough was even longer. Your ending is also based on how long you take to beat the game. And you can even, like, you can even set how many, like, how long you've been playing for with the game's password system. And that's something I'm also going to get into in the next bonus video whenever I get started on that. And I believe we now have, I want to say it's a long beam. Like, if it is, well, it means Samus can now shoot across the screen. I don't know why they made the long beam a power-up or anything and such. It's something that's, like, either the planet has a lot of wind resistance, or just nobody knows why it's there. And there's my AC, or my heater going off. So I apologize for the extra noise. But yeah, I did not have a good time with this game, because, again, it hasn't aged that well. It's like it controls fine, like the controls function. I do find the password system a very interesting topic and such, but there are a lot of things that just scream NES, and I don't say that as a compliment or an accolade. I say that as, yeah, you can definitely tell things are going to be very dated by today's standards, and I'd only bear repeating at this point. There's, like, I don't know how many times I've mentioned it now. So, yeah. You can tell how different this game looked by comparison. Like, you can go back to the first part of my LP, and you can easily tell that man did Zero Mission make things look pretty. And even then, Zero Mission was going to look a bit more like the original, even to the point where Samus looked much closer to her NES sprites. It almost kind of looked a bit weird. Though, if there's one thing that Zero Mission did upgrade, it's the music. Because some of the, like, while most of the tracks are fine, there's, like, one track they definitely did fix for the better, and I believe it's, like, I want to say it's Norfair. Norfair does, does not sound that good in my honest opinion, and I think it's more so the first part, because it's definitely the second part that you will recognize the most, but the instruments for the first part you'll hear, man, like, man, it just sounded weird to me. And it wasn't because because I was playing on GBA, it persisted with this version as well. Now, because this video is a bit unscripted, I am trying to make sure I can keep the conversation going for an hour and a half. Because past me recorded the beginning part of that video around a month ago. And I had an initial, much earlier cut of it too that might not see the light of day, because I tried to record the rest of the video on that version of the game without practicing the game beforehand. Always practice your game beforehand before deciding to LP it, because there are still games I have to practice beforehand before deciding to Let's Play it and such. So, yeah. So, another thing that also bothers me about this game is Samus. In the Famicom box art of the game, you can definitely tell that Samus is wearing a suit of armor. In this game, because knockback was a very prevalent thing during the time this released, I'm convinced that Samus's power suit in this game is made of rubber. It looks more like rubber than it does a full suit of armor. And if you're wondering why I decided to exit out of that room, it's because, well, I was looking at the map. I had to use a map to speed up my playthrough, because I didn't want to spend 6 hours on this game or even longer. And sometimes, just because a game is on the NES and just because that's why it's hard, does not always mean it's, a fun time. There can be good, difficult games on the NES, but I think what matters more is that you have fun with that game, rather than the game just really wants you to prove yourself. And I did really have fun with this game. I did not like the HP famine because of how item drops are handled. I did not like how whenever you wanted to reload a save file from reload a game state from a password, or you decide to hit continue after getting a game over, you start with 30 HP instead of 99 or max HP like in later titles. There's a lot of first game weirdness with it, and there's also a lot of things that I'm glad that have been ironed out over time. It's the first game, and it definitely does feel like it. Some first games will hit the ground running, even though I have a few issues with Mega Man X1, it was a game that does hit the ground running, rather than just trying to walk before they run. And, there can be, worse examples of a first game versus better examples of a first game. One game I still struggle to even play through because of the gameplay loop just being that slow is, I want to say, Mega Man Battle Network 1. I would have played the Legacy Collection on my PC, but it has that Enigma DRM, and I'd rather not have that. So, I'm just stuck with the versions of the game on the Wii U, which means no Buster Max. But the biggest issue is just how slow Battle Network 1's battle system is. Right there, I believe, is another Ice Beam pickup. There are 2 Ice Beams in this game and 1 Wave Beam pickup. Now, beams do not stack in this game. That is not until, I want to say, Samus Returns, or Return of Samus. Samus Returns is the remake, Return of Samus is the original. you can play that as well on the Nintendo Switch Online service. I'm telling you now. But in terms of, well, gameplay loop, like with, say, Mega Man Battle Network 1, you see, like, how slow the chip battling, like, the net battling is, because it's so hard to actually get a good string of, matching chips and chip codes and such. Like, it just makes me wonder, when does this become a faster battle system? And from what I was able to look up, given that I did not play the first title until a couple years back, and I still need to beat it, it turns out the battle system being slow was indeed the case. So I just have to go with whatever I find best and whatever I'm able to constantly pull off. And boy, am I going to be there for a while until I can get to the good ones, because I do want to get to Battle Network 3 and such. But Battle Network is something that I'm willing to knock off my bucket list over time. But, get used to those, get used to that beeping, because, yeah, I am low on HP, and I'm not going to be able to refill it until I get another energy tank, and I can't remember when I get my next energy tank, but it's going to be some time from now. In terms of what you have to get in this game, well, you only have like 8 energy tanks to collect, but you can only hold a maximum of 6. I'll talk about what do you do in terms of the other 2 energy tanks, and I believe this is where the first cut is, the first cut I've made. And I've had to edit around so many failed takes through a corridor and such. Like, I'm cutting out, you're gonna see that I'm gonna be cutting out a lot of, failed run-throughs through a corridor, because, yeah, there's the game over screen. And the reason why I think I kept this one in is to basically go to another corridor and collect that area's missiles and such. But now you see my biggest issue with the game. You see that 30 HP? You will always start with that. All your energy tanks will be empty. Like, it doesn't matter if you have like 6, you will always start with 30 no matter what. And that is one of the biggest issues I have with this game. Aside from the knockback, the inability to shoot downwards, the inability to stack beams, because we will talk about the wave beam when we get into Ridley. And yes, I do have to cut around a lot of fluff, because there was a lot of backtracking and such that I just tried my best to edit around whenever I feel it's necessary. Just not being able to start with max HP is something that always bothers me about this game. And on top of that, this was a game without save stations. Not even the Japanese version had save stations. The Japanese version had save files. It will actually save your progress. But we did not get a save battery cartridge in the United States version. Instead, what we got was essentially a debugger tool that allows us to create a game state at any time we want. And I'll be showing off that password system in the next bonus video, which is whenever I get to working on it. By the time this uploads, I probably already am working on it. And in terms of the password system and such, Just like how Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, and Wario Land 4 are made with the same engine, Metroid 1 and, Metroid 1 and, I believe, Kid Icarus was, both built with the same engine. Sadly, Kid Icarus would not get another game until, say, the 3DS, and I'm not expecting it to get a Nintendo Switch re-release or whatever the next-gen console is, because everybody's been talking about that being on the horizon, and, admittedly, I'm not really ready for that. In terms of one thing I do recommend you do, since you have the freeze beam, because of how relentless enemies get, and they will munch through your HP, like, look at me. I'm already down to 5. Like, I am not a pro Metroid player by any stretch of the means. You want pro Metroid players and such, you go watch people like Some Call Me Johnny. You go watch AGDQ speedrunners of Super Metroid. You go to Twitch to see who's speedrunning the games. I'm not one of those players. I appreciate you for getting this far, for watching. But if you want to watch something better, well, there are options. You are not short of them. And, just send him your best regards and such. Just, it's just, when you have the Ice Beam for this game, my best advice is to just when enemies are getting way too relentless to deal with, that you're going to be losing more HP than trying to gain it, just freeze and forget. Freeze and forget. Like, that is the best thing I can advise you to do. And, yeah, I did have an awkward cut there because I was trying to freeze an enemy just so I can defeat it and hopefully get a health pickup. But I will say something that you're not going to be short on in this game, and if you know where every one of them is, and believe me, it's very easy to get 100% in this game if you have a map and such, it's missiles. Missiles are plastered everywhere. In fact, if you decide to apply the Narpus sword code for the game, you'll be completely invincible. You will have all the items at your disposal, and such. But there is one thing that is recommended. You want to pick up one missile expansion before beating the game. If you went all game without picking up a single missile expansion by the time you reach Turian, the moment you try to defeat a Metroid, the game will crash because it's trying to actually drop a missile pickup. The game will actually force missile pickups, unlike the rest of the game and such. And because of that, the game will freeze if you hadn't picked up a single missile pack the entire way. And if you want to play with the Narpus sword code turned on, go ahead. I will not judge you because, again, this is, I will say this about the original Metroid, it's just very dated. I don't need to say that any further. And I believe beam stacking, I was trying to get into that topic earlier, beam stacking was not a thing until the sequel, which is Return of Samus. And we'll get to that when we get the wave beam in Ridley. And there's a reason why they hand you the ice beam twice. In fact, if you really wanted to, you can just skip the wave beam power-up. You don't need it. But I will recommend it if you really just want to defeat some enemies with some extra power. You will lose the ability to freeze enemies, making platforms and such, but it should be a non-issue if you're going through Ridley. Believe me, even though this game, even though I have been able to go through this game, a bit better this time compared to my first playthrough, I still had my issues with it. I had a lot of issues with it. I got really frustrated with it because it's just how it's handled, or it's just how it is. I'm not sure how else I could put it. It's just how the game feels to play, how it always feels like you're starved for health and then some. And then there's the more frustrating aspects about it we'll get to when we get closer to the end of the game. I will say there may be like 3 bosses, but only one of the 3 bosses is the most frustrating. We'll get to it when we reach Mother Brain, but there's going to be something where I'm like, yeah, please apply this code or something. And on top of that, I believe we're about to get the high jump. I want to say, like, I can't remember all the upgrades in this, in this game. To be fair, there's the high jump, there's the Vario suit, which we'll be getting on our way back from Ridley, but you see those wings on those boots? That's the high jump. Now in terms of like games that shared engines, and how I was talking about Kid Icarus and Metroid sharing engines, I mean, they're both on this service. You can indeed play Kid Icarus if you so wanted to. Like, it even shares the same password system. That's how, like, that's like the biggest giveaway in terms of it. There could be other giveaways and such, but yeah. Fun little fact, I didn't see how, like, Kid Icarus, like the original Kid Icarus, was played until I watched Lucajin and Proton John's playthrough of it. And I want to say it was a multi-part playthrough. No computer turned back on because holy crap, that scared me. But it's one of those games that where, from what I've heard, it starts off difficult but gets easier as it goes on. And it's just so easy to get pot shot in this game. I'm not kidding. Granted, I'm not exactly a Metroid master, but sometimes the game can just be rude to you. It can be, like, this game can be exceptionally rude. And if you see me cut around it, or cut around this footage, that's because I'm cutting out a lot of energy grinding. Yep, back to full. And fortunately, the game did not decide to stop dropping, well, pickups and such. But the reason why I'm able to make this playthrough as optimized as I am is because I spent a few days playing the GBA port that you could unlock on Zero Mission. And again, like, you saw that cut right there. I was just cutting out a bunch of restore point making and such. Like, again, if you have Zero Mission, you don't need to play this game unless you're really curious.
Screw attack.
God, I forgot I put that there. I thought someone was behind me. Oh, I probably should have lowered the volume of that in the recording. Oh. Yep, we got the screw attack. Probably the best power-up in this game. Like, even better than the wave, even better than the wave beam in some cases. Because I believe it's called the screw attack because Samus is, like, somersaulting like a screw in a, like a Phillips screw or torque head screw. You're basically doing a twisting motion in a screw formation, and while doing that, a bunch of energy is surrounding you, and because that energy is surrounding you, you're able to just shred through enemies, and you don't know how helpful this is to have on aerial threats such as these bubbles right here. Like, I'm not even sure if these bubbles are, I don't even I don't think those bubbles are even in Zero Mission. Like, I don't remember them in Zero Mission. There's a lot of these truffle-looking platforms here. There's a lot of stuff that's all up to interpretation, and I do think that was some fun of having when it comes to just playing the games you enjoy or not nearly enjoy as much. You just interpret things as you go on. But yeah, you see all those. But it's just like sometimes you just try to come up with a name for something in case you can't really you don't really have any knowledge on what those platforms actually are or something. Hence why sometimes I had to just come up with something like those weird truffle platforms. Now, this may look like a dead end, but you have to blow up a platform right next to the door. There's going to be a few more of those later down the road. Like, I know it's possible that you could probably apply your Zero Mission knowledge to this game, but the issue with that is that Zero Mission does change enough things that it might be a bit troublesome to try to apply that knowledge to this to the older version or to the original, because you'd have to think about, would this still align with how the rooms are handled in the remake? Because in the remake, the rooms are so drastically different. Like, they're a bit more natural. There's a lot less asset reuse, and there is a lot of asset reuse in this game. And by that I mean the rooms. There will be rooms that are just copy and pasted to fit to fill a map. If you could break a section of floor in one part of a room and then go to another room that copies that exact same pattern for said floor, you could break that section of floor even though it doesn't go anywhere. Like I'm guessing they really needed to have a faster way of creating each of the rooms, and I mean, NES game development, you kind of had to work with what you had, and some developers had it better than others. I mean, look at Mega Man. I'm sure there are some other examples you could look at, but but like in the remake, you can't really apply that that knowledge of what you know from the remake to this game, because the rooms look more natural. There are rooms that did not exist. There's an entire section that was added to it. And in this game, like there will be a point where you're not going to, you're going to see, reused hallways and corridors just to connect paths and such. So, if it feels like you've been through a room before, that's because you have, it's just in another area. And believe me, you're going to make very liberal use of that screw attack. And it's all from just basically holding the A button to somersault jump rather than just doing a regular jump. And sometimes trying to get the game to recognize that you're just doing a standard jump instead of a screw attack jump is one of the most frustrating things ever, because you need to use an enemy as a platform. You need to have them there just to be able to be used as said platform. And these lower parts of Norfair, Ridley and Norfair just take forever to get through. Maybe it's for the best that I get through it first, but a grand chunk of your playthrough is going to be in this particular area because of how because you need to go through Norfair just to get to Ridley, while Kraid, you just need to enter another section of Brinstar just to get to Kraid. And unlike the remake, this was a time before shortcuts were added into the game's into the game's philosophy in terms of map design. Like, I don't think like shortcuts from area to area were a thing until, I want to say, Super Metroid. It's either Super Metroid or Fusion that started incorporating more of those to have faster travel between areas. Because in the original, you have to climb all the way back from Ridley to Norfair, and then you have to go from the lowest part of Norfair to get back to Brinstar. And if you don't have a map, you're going to be lost. Sometimes it's best to take the game over just to take a shortcut, meaning that you would probably take less time to get there. But say if you had like a health pickup, it's going to take longer to get that game over. Sure, enemies can eat through all your HP in this game, and you do see some awkward cuts here and there because of those pits that I didn't know had any escapes to them. And those little, the way that terrain looks, I'd say they did a really good job translating that terrain into the remake, because it surprisingly still looks really good and unique. Ugh. I keep forgetting how nervous I make myself with these things sometimes. But I believe this is where we get the wave beam. And yeah. So this is the wave beam. We are unable to freeze any enemies, and you can only destroy like a distinct, like a certain number of blocks, because after a certain number of blocks are destroyed, like the wave beam particles will just go straight through him until those blocks reform, so you can break the blocks again. And like, you can completely skip this item. Like, you can go through the game and skip this item, but it's going to be a bit more trickier to traverse through Norfair. But, like, you can shred through enemies with this thing. Sure, you can shred through enemies with the with the screw attack, but now these platforms right here are a lot easier to get on because of the wave beam and such. Like, this particular wave beam, like, holy crap. Like, I have, like, my first playthrough, like, my first proper playthrough, instead of just trying to get B-roll footage, I went through the entire game without using the wave beam, and I don't think it was that fun of a time, to be completely honest. It's possible, and in fact, you need the ice beam for the, for the end game and such. But it's just, like, you need the ice beam just for the end game area, because you needed to defeat the title enemy of this game, the Metroids. Otherwise, the final area is going to be near impossible. It's just that the ice beam, like, while its use is always appreciated, it's just that it's not as powerful as the wave beam, and that's what I don't like about not being able to stack beams in this title. I can only guess it's because of system limitations or something. Whatever it may be, it's just that eventually you're going to need to go back to one of the rooms you were in I want to say Brinstar. It's either Brinstar. Actually, yeah, it has to be Brinstar because the ice beam is located in 2 areas in Brinstar that they basically give it to you twice, and in case you grab the wave beam in Norfair and such, and you didn't go for that, area with the ice beam, you can go back and get the ice beam. But ugh. It's just the backtracking aspects that I remembered why it took me so long to edit all this together. And one of my least favorite things about playing the original, trying to climb up vertical shafts with blocks that you destroy and make reappear. Oh, and that too. And like, certain enemies can have a tendency to be able to charge to the end of the screen. Sometimes they can go through a door as you're going through it, and you take 10 damage that you cannot avoid. And that is very irritating that you can't avoid damage, so I really hope that, that you're not in a near-death situation in that case, because you would just get pot shot and you'll just die between doors. And I don't know if I do spend some time here trying to farm energy. And yes, I do. I do farm energy there. My other issue with trying to get this recorded was trying to find a time to record this. I don't really get that many moments in the day to be able to record this because I'm usually spending time with friends and such. So I'm more so waiting for when the space around me is quiet enough that I won't be interrupted that much, if at all, and I won't have to worry about recording issues and such, that I can actually have some time to myself to basically ramble about this game, how much I can ramble about it until I can run out of things to talk about. Because I don't exactly have a QA planned for this. Like, I'm definitely going to have to do something similar, but now we're about to enter Ridley. And Ridley here, I mean, it's not nearly as big as Norfair, but it's still quite a trip to go through. And there's a reason why I'm taking this pathway first. There's another missile upgrade and such. And to be quite honest, I don't like getting this one. You want to make sure this door reforms, you can use the door as a platform, and I do struggle to get on that door. There's another reason why you might want to stick with the ice beam for that case. And there's even a glitch that involves using a door to basically get the Varia suit early, and I have not been able to do that successfully, and like, you have to glitch through the door, glitch through the terrain, and just constantly jump up and over and over and over again until you're able to clip through the door and go inside where the Varia suit area is. Now, it's not just getting there, it's also just trying to make sure you survive. Because this corridor, if you decide to forego getting the wave beam, you will make sure, don't defeat any of the enemies here. And there are even cases where the game just decides not to spawn any more item pickups, and I've had a lot of that happen to me during my playthroughs, and it frustrated me. It really, really frustrated me. Like, I've actually had a lot of, like, this game actually made me really infuriated at points. Like, vertical shafts with blocks that you need to constantly jump up on, and if you are not on that block before when it appears, it will bump you off, and your knockback will send you all the way back down. And I had to do a lot of awkward cutting because of how relentless the enemies are, the lack of personal space they have, and how much the game just doesn't want to drop health pickups. Your best source of getting HP in this game is usually going to be those energy tanks. Like, you want to survive, or you want to get like a full heal or something on the easy, there's probably an energy tank you haven't picked up. And if you have the full 6 already, you're mainly picking up the last 2 not only for completion purposes, but you're also picking up the last 2 just to get a full heal. And there's a good case for that. Like, there's even one in Kraid's room. Like, these enemies right here, these small enemies, I can't remember their names, but they would get like a serious upgrade in Zero Mission and Fusion. They become much bigger in those games. Like, they're like, not really thrice the size, but double the size of what they are in the NES game. And, this room, you're probably thinking to yourself, like, when you get to the end of it, how do I get across this wall if bomb jumping was not possible until Super Metroid? Well, you kind of had to look at a video, because not even a map could tell me that that secret was there. And then you just need to get up here and defeat this enemy while you have the save space for it. And boy, if you thought this slowdown was bad, you should see the Game Boy Advance version of the NES Metroid. And yes, there is a pit right there. You want to jump over it just to get this E-Tank. I believe in, like, Zero Mission, like, I believe in Zero Mission, that pit was much bigger. And, yeah. But now that we're in Ridley, finally, like, we are practically approaching the halfway point of this particular playthrough. And as much as I would have wanted to split this playthrough in half, I would have rather to have kept NES Metroid to just to just one video if I could help it. I honestly tried to make this much shorter, but I just couldn't. And I might as well try to keep things interesting by talking about certain topics. Now, one of the things that... Oh yeah, that's one issue about trying to, like, shoot the door when you're when your arm cannon is, like, touching it. The projectiles go through the door. It does not touch the door itself. And, again, with these enemies, Screw Attack is your friend. Like, it is your biggest friend here. But, in terms of, one thing that Nintendo did for a while with their NES and SNES services, more so NES, is that they made editions of those games. And Metroid received 2. I want to say there was probably another game that received 2. I think it was Gradius. But for Metroid, you had one where Samus had her full arsenal at the start. And then you had another where you had a full arsenal against Ridley, which was also promoting the reveal of Ridley for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I'm probably in the minority of this, but I don't like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I only put it on that 200 sub list, simply because I think people would have... I was thinking maybe people would have voted for that the most. And imagine my surprise when SRP 2 Kart was the one that was the winner. Though, to be fair, probably for the better. Now, this jump right here, I had to cut around it just to show off the jump. Yeah. That's how awkward this room is. But yeah, it was basically to show off you fighting Ridley in Smash, and boy, was it one heck of a reveal. It also inadvertently started this. It also was the start of this trend of having Mario die in every Smash reveal. there was King K. Rool, but like there was like King K. Rool causing King Dedede to be sent flying, but I also have some choice words for King K. Rool in Smash Brothers. Thank you for that, Zwatakeda. But that's enough about games I dislike. I mean, once Crash Team Racing had my attention, I dropped Smash super hard. Like Splatoon 3 is like approaching the point where it might actually be my most played game in due time. It's the second ever Nintendo Switch game in my library to reach 1,000 hours. And I almost reached that with Animal Crossing New Horizons, but New Horizons kinda got tiring for me after a while. I still haven't touched the updates since then, since I dropped the game and it was no longer part of my daily routine. Like, I think one of my reasons for visiting, for trying to get my feet wet with the Metroid series was Metroid Dread, because it was one of the most unexpected things to happen when I watched that. Like, I was still between my move, and I couldn't stay awake enough to catch the direct live, so I had to catch the direct. In post. I didn't even pay attention to my friends on Discord or something. But Metroid Dread was one of the most surprising things because I did not expect that to come back so soon. Or, well, not so soon, but to come back at all, I meant. Because that game started development back on the Nintendo DS, I believe. It was either on the DS or the GBA. I know it had some time to work on the DS, but because of how ambitious the project would have been for that hardware, well, a lot of people took its long disappearance from any sort of reported reports of making any sort of appearances at any E3, rest in peace, or any directory nowadays or something, as yes, this game is canceled, but the fact that it came back after all this time and on the Nintendo Switch, it's just nothing short of incredible. Like, and needless to say, when I got Metroid Dread, one of my favorite things about it is the suit you have at the start of the game. I just love that color palette, that white and blue. The way it looks, it's one of my favorite things about it. Now, as you can see here, you're seeing that frame rule dropping not working to my favor because I was there for a long while trying to get an item drop from any of those enemies, and even over here, but they just weren't dropping anything anymore. They just didn't want to drop anything. I was always hitting the wrong frames, probably. And one of them takes more hits to kill if you did not have the wave beam. But it's just, they were just not dropping anything. They just don't want to. I'm screw attacking through a lot of these mooks here, and I have not gotten them to drop a single health or missile pickup. So, you wanna know what was my solution for picking up this missile pack? You're about to see an explosion jump cut. If I wasn't gonna get healed and I had a long way to climb back up, I might as well just cut my time short and just basically take an L just to take a shortcut. Because, again, you have no save rooms. Like, there's no places to heal, no places to save. No, like, safe areas where you could just step into a tube just to call your progress there. All you had were passwords you had to write down as a kid because it was that era of gaming. Like, Lemmings had this, Kid Icarus had this, Mega Man had this. Yep, there it is. I also startled myself with that, too. But yeah, I basically took a shortcut, went all the way back down there, and just, well, got all the way back here, and I also did have to awkwardly cut around here. I apologize if this might not be the best sounding commentary, as I'm just trying to stutter over my words here. But I'm just trying to make sure there isn't too much dead air between parts and such. I probably should have, like, cut this in half. Maybe that would have made my life easier here. But I'm in this for the long run. I really hope that you understand that I worked way too hard on this to turn back now. And as you can see, I had some Olympics here. And I realize I have less than 100 HP, but I know of a way to fight Ridley. Ridley is pathetic in this game. Look. And if I had way more HP, I could make it much easier by taking damage by firing underneath him. But none of Ridley's attacks are even hitting me. So on top of that, no computer, please don't go into sleep mode again. Yeah, that's how long this video is going on and for. And yes, I took a hit right there. And there's one part of the floor that's lava, and the rest of it is actual freaking terrain. Well, we're here for one reason. This E-Tank. Once you get this E-Tank, it's time to backtrack. So, SpongeBob narrator.
A few moments later.
Thank you. Yeah, what you're not seeing is me having to go all the way back through Ridley just to get to Norfair. I'm basically picking up the Ice Beam again. SpongeBob narrator, if you could.
Later.
Now I'm going back to Brinstar to pick up another missile pack and the Varia suit. Now I have the Ice Beam again, simply because it's needed to beat the game. And the reason why you need this Ice Beam to beat the game is because Metroids are weak to the Ice Beam. You cannot just fire missiles at Metroids and defeat them that way. You need to freeze them before pumping them with missiles. And basically, you're gonna want that Varia suit because acid will do less damage to you, and if you did take a bit too long, you at least will get Samus taking off her helmet and revealing that Samus is a female. This was the game that basically had that big reveal, even though one character from Baraduke did it 1 year earlier. But to be fair, Baraduke was an arcade game, and you gotta wonder what arcades in the United States had Baraduke. I know Japan probably had, like, Baraduke arcade machines. It is a Namco machine. But United States arcade scene was on the cusp of dwindling in terms of popularity. There's still arcades nowadays. Like, even though people have said the arcades are not what they used to be, they still exist and there's still plenty of them. It's just that they're way more prevalent in Japan given the lifestyle. I mean, there's a reason why there's a lot of round ones in the United States. Speaking of which, I need to go to my round one again because I am so happy I don't have to play A3 on the gold cab with possibly faulty pads. Ugh. But now we're up here and we're about to get ourselves the Varia suit. Now in this game, Samus does not have those shoulder pads. Instead, you have this very garish pink color on Samus. Now I initially cut the video there, but then I was like, oh, why cut it there? So I decided to just continue, recording. And this is where I would end up getting the, next, health capsule. And then after that, we'll be heading straight to, Kraid. Unfortunately, you don't have to go through another world just to get to Kraid. You just have to go back to Brinstar, take another pathway within Brinstar, then go to Kraid. And admittedly, just going into an empty, hallway feels weird. It's like a liminal space in an NES game. But yeah, I even broke the pathing of that enemy for a bit. And sometimes defeating that enemy is more trouble than it's worth. Sometimes they can group together like this. And basically, I'm just going through here just to get some remaining items, including a health tank. The reason why I chose not to get this health tank earlier is because I want to say you needed the ice. No, I think you needed the. I think you needed the morph ball bombs just to get this item. So I'm having to to shoot upwards, and then just have to find which block is the one that breaks, just to get this item. And if one of them could break soon, thank you. There we go. Basically, I need the morph ball bombs just to get this. Now let's get this energy tank, which is our 5th one. So now.
Later that same evening.
Thank you. We are going straight back to Brinstar because, fortunately, oh yeah, our 6th energy tank. How do we get this one? Well, I actually had to look at a video about it. You can say that it was a early SGB video about it. But basically, you want this enemy right here. You don't want to kill it. You want to make sure that it stays on screen as you guide it all the way to this following wall. Now, you could get this one much earlier if you so wish. I just don't know how much earlier, because I know you're going to need the high jump boots just to be able to get it. But by freezing that enemy, you're able to create a bit of a step ladder to get this energy tank. But if you're playing Zero Mission and you want that energy tank now rather than later, morph ball jump to it. The morph ball bombs are able to blow up in a way where you can rhythmically blow up, just constantly get enough height just to reach it. But because of how you see how high the morph ball bounces whenever it hits a surface, right? Now do you know why I like to refer to Samus's suit in this game as like a suit of rubber rather than a suit of armor? It just feels that way. And now I will agree here that I do not like the Varia suit in Fusion. It's like if vomit could vomit, in the words of Johnny. But I do not like the Varia suit in NES Metroid simply because of how garish it looks. It just makes Samus look more like a rubber chicken. I get that she's raised by Chozo. She was raised by birds. It makes sense, but if there's many things that Return of Samus did right, it was giving the Varia suit those shoulder pads, because those are some very iconic and striking shoulder pads that I'm never tired of. Like, they look good. They really do. They really do. They complete that orange suit. Like, they complete that orange suit. It's like a pair of really cool shoes. They just complete the look. Like, I'm a sucker for cool shoes. Just something that's just like, just some cool kicks to run in, to just dance and such. And yeah. But saying this now, like, I do like cool shoes, but it's just more so just something I like. It's just something I like when I see, or like designing when I'm like drawing characters or something like that. I mean, something I always like is if like a kit I'm trying to put together in Splatoon, and I have like a piece of gear that also has a really nice looking like some really cool looking footwear, because I don't know, it's just more so the aesthetic they have, the like how cool it would be to run with these, to groove with these and such. It's just more so just design things that I like about with like designing characters or drawing characters or something like that. Like when it comes to like designing like armor or clothing or something like that, just cool nuances that can complete the look. I tried to take a shortcut to get this E-Tank. You don't need any more E-Tanks. If you have 6, you do not get 8 full health bars. You only get 6 in this game. And you're really only collecting these 2 for completion, or the last one to get a health refill for fighting Kraid. More on that when we get to Kraid. But back on the subject of, like, the tangent of great character design, there tends to be wanting to make sure that when you're like designing the clothes or the suit or something like that, you want to make something that just looks nice or looks fun to draw and such. And admittedly, I suck at drawing shoes sometimes, but sometimes I tend to enjoy drawing more simpler looking characters. Simple without being boring, because when a character is fun to draw, you just forget the time that passes when you're finished drawing that character. Whether it be an OC or an existing character. Also, check this out. Yep. But sometimes... yeah, that was rude. I was shunted out. But, like, personally, one thing I wish I was better at was drawing characters with complicated armor or suits of clothing or messy hair. I really love the design, but I don't like drawing it. Like, I've heard people have big issues trying to draw Midna's helmet. Maybe there's people that will upcharge you for wanting to commission fan art of your Final Fantasy XIV character in case your glamour is like really detailed and such. Sometimes it's just like ugh, that's a lot you have to get right, and it can be stressful, and sometimes they would just be like, change your glamour because I'm not drawing that. Oh, and this section right here. This section right here is... yeah, it's way more frustrating coming back from that section. And the reason why I'm not going to Kraid immediately from there is because there's still some upgrades I want to get, and there's a different pathway to Kraid. On top of that, there's a corridor design that I really like the detail of, because you'll know it when you see it. Oy. These little chain link platforms. Oof. It's just like, maybe someday I will try to like draw some of my favorite, more of my favorite characters from video games and such. Even if it means I have to learn how to draw like more visually busy designs and such. It's a learning process. And sometimes it isn't just sometimes it isn't just like it isn't just the shoes. Maybe the clothes have like a really cool design or a color palette you like. And sometimes something will click and it's just something you just always like the look of, and it like to you it just feels right. I'm more so saying this in a more appreciative stance and such. Like like sometimes you just want to make something look the best and such. Sometimes it can be like a cool suit, or sometimes it can be like a very presentable suit and tie, or just something that you wouldn't expect to see on the type of mission or adventure you go on, but you just roll with it because it's too incredible or funny not to have. But I'm getting off topic here, and I know that in terms of characters like when Samus got her Zero Suit and such, I mean, like, it's just like yeah, they knew what they were doing. There are certain character designs where when you look at them, you're just like, they knew what they were doing. Also, my biggest frustration is something that I cut out, but I faced it a lot in when I was playing the GBA version. Getting caught in the corner. If you get caught in the corner and you just can't get out, you have to reload a save. You reload a save state or rewind, because there's like no way in hell you're getting out of there alive. But to show the power of the power of the Varia suit, that acid was not draining my health as fast as it was before. I mean, I guess the topic I was talking about in terms of appreciating character design is what also makes character design iconic for all the right reason. What makes it something that just like always a sight for the eyes when it appears. Also, this is fake Kraid, and as you can see, it's facing backwards because we're on the opposite side, and it went down in a single missile. Fake Kraid does not exist in Zero Mission. Fake Kraid exists in Super Metroid, but that's the last we'll ever see of Fake Kraid. But but yeah. Now, one of my favorite things about this boss corridor we're about to enter into. It's a monster's face. There's the eyes, there's the teeth. I love it. Now, initially, you can indeed fight Kraid with missiles, but Johnny showed me in his SGB Let's Play, and during that when that Let's Play went up, I was about to enter. I think I was still in middle school when that Let's Play went up, and I didn't watch Johnny until his Mega Man stuff, like when he was doing the Mega Man marathon, and I think I was just barely out of high school or still in high school during that time. And here I am just applying those tricks. nearing my 30s. Time is a flat circle sometimes, but you are getting this E-Tank for a full heal. And on top of that, when you defeat an enemy in, like, whenever you defeat a boss in Metroid, such as Ridley or Kraid, you get a big chunk of missiles. Like, a huge sum of them. Like, and that's not going to stop here. When you enter Turian, you're going to get a lot of missiles. And this area. There's a lot of awkward cutting around this area, but I hate this section right here. Try doing this without save states. You will hate it. There are these blocks right here that you will see me constantly jump cut past just to be able to actually climb up. And if you don't time it right, you could easily get bumped off and you will be sent back off of that pathway. Like, I had visceral distaste towards this vertical section. There's a reason why they added the speed booster tunnels here. Like, there's a reason why there's a speed booster launcher there.
Much later.
Thank you, narrator. But yeah, now that we've already seen those rooms in person, it's about time we head to Turian. Now, we do not have criteria in this game. We do not have a we do not have a space pirate ship. We do not have a stealth section. Once we're done with Turian, the game ends there. And given that this took me 3 hours, I think I was able to get Samus into Leotard for this ending. I will talk about I will talk about the different endings when we get to seeing that. But I will show off what happens in the worst ending when we get to that bonus episode, the last one. But yeah, once you activate those statues, prepare to enter the most frustrating area of your life. Like, once you're able to figure it out, you will have more manageable time trying to get to Mother Brain. But this is where the Metroids lie. You have to get into the groove of hitting select a lot. So basically, you have to like maneuver them. You want to make sure you're moving ahead of them and such, so that way they don't attach themselves to your cranium and start draining your life. And the fact that Metroids can drain life and can even drain the very machines, the very machines that could possibly contain them, it gets really scary to think about. And believe me, this kind of thing is something that will be brought up over time in the series. And it will have its more integral moments. I mean, Metroid Dread Let's Play is going to be a very long time from now. Also, another thing that I dislike with this, and it's more annoying in this version of the game, Rinkas. Rinkas here basically spawn from out of nowhere. They don't have those, like, Rinka spawners and such, but in this game, they're Applejacks that can just spawn anywhere they please. And let's just say they're the real enemy here, because you will reach that maximum of 255 missiles here because of how generous the item drops are here. Like, they're much more generous than anywhere else in the game. Like in these part of the game, you'll have, like, health drops that drop, like, 10 or, I want to say 30 each. Like, probably look at the footage and you'll probably get a more accurate number. Believe the game you're seeing, not what I'm saying. But then you have missile packs, which they will give you, like, I want to say, like, okay, it was 30. And then you have, like, you get, like, missile packs in, like, drops of 10, I believe. Like, you don't get, like, 2 or 1, you get 10. And I can't remember what Metroid game has the most missile drops and such, but you do get a lot of missiles, like, missiles and depending on the game. And unlike in Zero Mission, you don't have to defeat all the Metroids to get across the room. In fact, that one door we saw, in, say, like the first room of Turian, that is the only instance of a door that requires 10 missiles to open. I don't really count how many missiles you need to break those barriers. But I will say that when we get to Mother Brain, there's a reason why I just couldn't exactly cleanly edit around it. And I'm not really going to show this, but in the Japanese version, the sound effects for, like, there are sound effect differences for hitting the Metroids and possibly other possible things. But those particular sound effects are, like, they are very different in the Japanese version than they are in the English version. Oof. And what sucks is when you get a Metroid on you and then you just forget to... And what's worse is when you just forget to freeze them and they just won't stop comboing you to the point where it's just like you see this. This is what can happen if you let them take more, like, bite off more than they can chew. I'm just looking at here thinking, do I really want to get myself my 6 HP bar back? But this particular room right here, this room here is the final boss. Even the very machinery itself, the enemies that spawn from it, those Rinkas are the real threat here, because they will always spawn in droves of 3, and they will cause knockback like those turrets right here. You thought the boss fight against Mother Brain was difficult in Zero Mission because of how much Samus kept getting bumped back and forth off, and you just had to hope that you're lucky that you're within the same range of sight to actually, like, break open, like, to actually hit Mother Brain. In this game, hitting those barriers. I will put a code in the description of this video to basically, like, if you want to get to this boss fight without having to break these barriers. Because trying to break these barriers is one of the most frustrating things about this boss. I hate these barriers so much, because if you're getting hit by any of the Rinkas and enough time has passed, and, like, if you didn't hit the barrier anymore, those barriers will regenerate. Like they will regenerate, and you have to take more missiles to defeat it. Granted, you don't need a lot, like, too many missiles to defeat Mother Brain. In fact, in this version of the game, they actually toned down the flashing lights you see in the original. Like, I think it's like a... Yeah. This... I had enough to the point where I just basically said, I don't want to edit so much that's not going to look the best. So I just got to the point where I just basically broke the glass. You had to break the glass, you had to shoot missiles into it, but you also had to deal with Rinkas. But now that you're against the final boss and the final escape, you have to basically jump on these pills, these Advil pills, whatever they are. And they're a bit of a thing to jump through and such. I've had an easier time, here, admittedly. But they are such tiny platforms you have to climb up on. And in fact, you don't even get your gunship in this game. Like, the gunship appears in Super Metroid. And that's the end of the game. Now, for clearing the game within 3 hours with all the upgrades, it's either 3 hours or like 2 hours or something. Well, Samus will actually reveal herself to be female. Like, the game tries to play up the mystery of Samus's gender either being male or being a robot or something. Even the Japanese version does this with its, like, with the material you have for it. But it's now common knowledge that everyone knows that Samus is a girl by now. By clearing the game within an hour, good luck with that, you will get Samus in a bikini instead. Clearing the game in more than 3 hours will result in Samus just only taking her helmet off. Clear the game more than 3 hours without the Varia suit, well, Samus just throws her head in shame and you'll be able to you'll be able to see that within the next episode and such. Also, the names are the way they are because during this time period in Japan, they were trying to prevent staff poaching because other companies were trying to poach staff to try to work for them and such. It was a completely different landscape back then. But yeah, that was original Metroid. I don't plan on revisiting the original Metroid anytime soon. That was a lot off my belt. But yeah, I will see you with the last bonus episode. I hope you're taking good care of yourself. I hope you follow whatever's next of mine. And I shall now bid you adieu.